I want to thank everyone for joining us today for our technical assistance webinar. We are super excited to be able to bring this information to you today. It's going to be a bit of a long webinar, but super informative. So we're so glad that you can join us for the Literacy Coaches and Reading Specialist Educator Training, or the LCRS ET Request for Applications, or RFA. So just a few housekeeping details that I would like to share with you really fast. All participants in the webinar currently have been placed on mute. We ask that you try to hold your questions until the end of the webinar, as the presentation will address many of your questions, and we will have a question and answer session toward the end of the webinar. At any time, though, please submit your questions in the chat box and we can go ahead and address them at the end. And also, please note that these PowerPoint slides with notes will be available on the California Department of Education, or CDE, LCRS ET Grant Program RFA webpage at http://www.cde.ca.gov/FG/FO/R12/LCRS23RFA.ASP. And note that all information that we are going to be covering today in the slides is also available in the RFA. So this technical assistance webinar today is provided by the Educator Excellence and Equity Division at the CDE. My name is Jennifer Howder, and I am an Education Programs Consultant in the Professional Learning Innovations Office. I am also joined today by Julia Agostinelli, the Education Administrator for the Professional Learning Innovations Office, and our Branch Deputy Superintendent, Cheryl Cotton, who will continue our welcome and share some information on our statewide literacy work.
Thank you, Jennifer. Welcome to everyone. Thanks for joining us today. The CDE is excited to work with the selected COE to support LEAs with our LCRS program, which is providing funding for staffing and resources to support LEAs in ensuring students are reading at grade level. The goal of our State Superintendent of Public Instruction, Tony Thurmond, and his literacy campaign is for all California students to be reading by third grade by 2026. The state superintendent has convened a literacy by literacy task force to provide recommendations to reach this goal, and the LCRS program is one of those results. There's a lot of work currently happening as well. We have the Comprehensive Literacy State Development Grant, the Reading Instruction Intervention Grant, the Educator Workforce Investment Grants, supporting the English Learner Roadmap and special education, as well as the work supporting students with dyslexia with this California Dyslexia Initiative. All of these great initiatives are rooted in California's guidance documents, standards, and frameworks. The California ELA/ELD framework, along with the Commission's literacy standards and teaching performance expectations, are foundational documents for the LCRS-ET. The County Office of Education that's chosen will provide much needed professional learning for literacy coaches and support for educators to obtain their added authorization or specialist credential to become reading specialists. The COE will also support the LEAs receiving LCRS funding with professional learning on a variety of critical literacy topics, such as developing school literacy programs, evidence-based instruction, family and community engagement, etc. The CDE is pleased to partner with the chosen COE to support LEAs in this work. Jennifer, I'll hand it back to you.
Thank you so much. So we're going to start things off today by providing some information about the state statute that authorizes the LCRS ET grants. So Assembly Bill, or AB 181, Section 137, Chapter 52, Statutes of 2022, authorized $25 million to the LCRS ET grant program. The State Superintendent of Public Instruction, or the SSPI, in consultation with the California Commission on Teacher Credentialing, or the Commission, and subject to the approval of the State Board of Education, or SBE, will award the sum of $25 million to a County Office of Education, or COE, or a consortium of COEs to develop and provide training for educators to become literacy coaches and reading and literacy specialists. Links to the legislation are available through the RFA as well as on the CDE website. The SSPI shall prioritize applicants with demonstrated success in improving literacy, especially among underperforming pupil subgroups, and who plan to partner with institutions of higher education, or IHEs, with demonstrated success in providing statewide professional development, or PD, for expert literacy practice. AB 181, Section 137, Chapter 52, Statutes of 2022 also authorized $225 million as a direct allocation of funds to eligible sites within local educational agencies, or LEAs, to develop school literacy programs, employ and train literacy coaches and reading and literacy specialists, and develop and implement interventions for pupils in need of targeted literacy supports. These funds were issued to LEAs in January of 2023. And the LCRS ET grantee will support the LEAs that received these funds. Links to the legislation are available in the RFA as well as on the CDE website if you would like to read more. Funds appropriated for this purpose are available for encumbrance through June 30th of 2027, and the project period is from August 2023 through March 31st, 2027. Note that LEAs that participate in activities offered by the grantee may also participate in the Reading and Literacy Supplementary Authorization Incentive Grant Program offered by the Commission. If you would like more information on that, links to all of the resources referenced in this presentation are available in the RFA. The 2023-24 Education Omnibus Trailer Bill has proposed an increase in funding for the LCRS program. It's going to be an additional $250 million, with $248 million allocated to additional eligible LEAs and $2 million to the chosen grantee to support these additional LEAs and contract with an external evaluator. However, please note that this is the trailer bill and this language is not finalized. The chosen grantee will have to agree to potentially modify the project based on any changes that the legislature requires. There will be one successful lead applicant. We encourage county offices of education to apply as a consortium. One grant of $25 million will be awarded for a grant period from August 2023 through March 31st, 2027. The language in the trailer bill could extend the date of this project, but that is yet to be determined. For the purposes of this RFA, we will be working within this project period. The deadline to submit an application is May 26, 2023 before 4 p.m. Please make sure to leave yourself plenty of time to address any technical issues that may arise. Let's talk a little bit about grant eligibility requirements. So as I mentioned, the CDE shall allocate grant funding to a COE, and also as stated, the CDE will give a priority and points to applicants that propose partnerships with an institution of higher education or a consortium of IHEs. COEs may also partner as a consortium with other COEs in the development of their proposal and throughout the duration of the grant period. If a consortium of COEs submits an application, one COE must be identified as the lead applicants. In the next couple of slides, I'll provide a little bit more information on partnerships and consortia. So the CDE will prioritize and award points to applicants that propose partnerships with an IHE or a consortium of IHEs that has demonstrated success in providing statewide PD for expert literacy practice. The lead applicant is encouraged to work with IHEs, especially those that partner with the California Reading and Literacy Project that can support educators in obtaining the Reading and Literacy Added Authorization and/or Specialist Credential accredited by the Commission. And COEs may also partner as a consortium with other COEs in the development of the proposal and throughout the duration of the grant period. If a consortium of COE submits an application, one COE must be identified as the lead applicant. So as mentioned, returning to grant eligibility, the grantee will support the local educational agencies that received funds from the $225 million allocation authorized in Assembly Bill 181. This support comes in the form of professional learning or PL opportunities. Therefore, an eligible applicant will be able to demonstrate the following abilities and capacities. Demonstrated success in improving literacy, especially among underperforming pupil subgroups, including developing school literacy programs, preparing and providing PL for literacy coaches and reading specialists, implementing evidence-based literacy instruction and interventions, including implementation of dual language acquisition and English language development or ELD programs, culturally sustaining curriculum and instruction, the use of data to support effective instruction, the use of data to identify and support struggling pupils, and the English language arts or ELA/ELD framework, as well as implementing evidence-based family literacy initiatives. Additionally, all aspects of this project must be rooted in evidence-based practices. Please note that applicants will be required to cite their evidence and provide a works cited page. As defined in the Every Student Succeeds Act, an evidence-based practice is an activity, strategy, or intervention that demonstrates a statistically significant effect on improving student outcomes or other relevant outcomes based on evidence. Evidence-based practices are supported by data, repeatedly tested, and reproducible. Evidence-based interventions are practices or programs that have evidence to show that they are effective at producing results and improving outcomes when implemented. This shift from scientifically based research to evidence-based interventions was designed to help increase the impact of educational investments by ensuring that interventions being implemented have proven to be effective in leading to desired outcomes, namely improving student achievement. We have two resources here that provide support with identifying evidence-based practices. Firstly, the National Center on Intensive Intervention at the American Institutes for Research provides information on studies of academic intervention programs on their website at https://charts.intensiveintervention.org/a-intervention. And then as well, the U.S. Department of Education's What Works Clearinghouse, or WWC, provides intervention reports, that is, summaries of findings of the highest quality research on a given intervention or practice in education, and reviews of individual studies, that is, summaries of individual studies that have been reviewed by the WWC. This information is available on the WWC website at https://ies.ed.gov/ncee/wwc/FWW. Again, all offered PL must be aligned to evidence-based practices and strategies, and you will be asked to upload a works cited page. It is part of the application in order to demonstrate this alignment. So speaking of alignments, it's important that this grant aligns its work with California guidance, standards, and frameworks, as well as other state literacy initiatives to provide a comprehensive and aligned approach to literacy for California's educators and students. The work of the LCRS ET grant program will align with the ELA/ELD framework, the literacy standards and teaching performance expectations, or the TPEs, the California Comprehensive State Literacy Plan, or the SLP, multi-tiered systems of support, or MTSS, the Quality Professional Learning Standards, or QPLS, and statewide literacy initiatives. And I'll take a moment to provide more information about each of these items. The work of the LCRS ET grant program will align with the guidance of the ELA/ELD framework, specifically the 5 key themes of meaning making, language development, effective expression, content knowledge, and foundational skills. Additionally, the grant program will also align with all 3 parts of the California English language development standards, including interacting in meaningful ways, learning how English works, and using foundational literacy skills. The literacy standards and teaching performance expectations were adopted by the Commission in October of 2022, and they encompass the study of effective means of teaching literacy across all disciplines. They are rooted in the ELA and literacy standards, the ELD standards, and the ELA-ELD framework. The TPEs are grounded in universal design for learning and asset-based pedagogies, and also incorporate elements of the California Comprehensive SLP. All of the guidance and documents referenced in this RFA are reflected within the TPEs for literacy, and as such, the TPEs should be considered a foundational resource for all applicants. An important goal of the grantee will be to support educators across the state in implementing state guidance on high-quality, evidence-based literacy instruction. The California Comprehensive State Literacy Plan, which was adopted by the SBE in March of 2021, serves also as a primary resource for the grantee. The SLP is a foundational document designed to align and integrate state literacy initiatives, content standards, and guidance documents, and to build local capacity to effectively address student literacy needs. The SLP provides a comprehensive and integrated literacy model designed to set the direction for literacy programs statewide by aligning and integrating state literacy guidance. This model centers on best first instruction and ensures high-quality, evidence-based literacy instruction occurs within the context of inclusive and equitable systems of schooling featuring high levels of engagement, a focus on continuous improvements, and application of California's multi-tiered systems of support framework. This inclusive and equitable system of supports for all students requires a focus on family and community engagements, celebration of diversity and an asset-based approach, attention to whole child needs, and well-prepared and supported teachers and leaders. The work of the LCRS ET grant program will also align with and support LEAs with MTSS. MTSS is an integrated and comprehensive framework that focuses on the California Common Core State Standards, or CCSS, core instruction, differentiated learning, student-centered learning, individualized student needs, and the alignment of systems necessary for all students' academic, behavioral, and social success. PL through the LCRS ET grant program should be aligned to the following CDE resources that support literacy and strong MTSS first instruction, or Tier 1. That is the California CCSS for ELA and literacy, the California ELD standards, the California dyslexia guidelines, improving education for multilingual and English learner, or EL students, and the California Practitioner's Guide for educating ELs with disabilities. Additionally, families are integral to student literacy development and achievements. So the California Family Engagement Framework and accompanying toolkit will provide direction for the grantee in working with families and communities to plan, implement, and evaluate family engagement practices. Culturally sustaining pedagogies require educators to be aware of classroom materials, structure, and culture to ensure a safe and relevant learning environments. The guidance documents, the CDE's EL roadmap, and improving education for multilingual and EL students provide insight on supporting multilingual students in a culturally sustaining way. And again, all of these resources are available in the RFA as well as on the CDE website. To ensure teachers and leaders are well prepared, care should be taken to ensure that PL opportunities are aligned to the CDE's Quality Professional Learning Standards, or the QPLS. The QPLS serve as a foundation for the content, processes, and conditions essential to all educator PL over time, which leads to improved educator knowledge, skills, and dispositions. The QPLS consists of 7 interdependent standards, which are rooted in student educator needs demonstrated through data, focused on content and pedagogy, designed to ensure equitable outcomes, designed and structured to be ongoing, intensive, and embedded in practice, collaborative with an emphasis on shared accountability, supported by adequate resources, and coherent and aligned with other standards, policies, and programs. Additionally, PL through the LCRS ET grant must prepare teachers to effectively collect, analyze, and respond to student performance data. LEAs should be prepared to implement a full range of assessment cycles, including the use of formative assessments. In response to the data, a structured MTSS should be in place with clearly defined evidence-based Tier 2 interventions and Tier 3 systems for intensifying interventions with data-based individualization. Now let's talk a little bit about alignment to state literacy initiatives. So in the fall of 2021, the State Superintendent of Public Instruction, Tony Thurmans, announced a campaign to ensure that every California student will learn to read by 3rd grade by the year 2026. This effort also includes a biliteracy milestone for dual language learners. Achievement of this vision requires the alignment of literacy initiatives and guidance across the states. So the LCRS ET grant will be key to reaching this goal. The grantee will also coordinate with other state literacy initiatives, including but not limited to the following: the California Subject Matter Projects, or the CSMP, grantees of the 21st Century California School Leadership Academy, grantees of the Comprehensive Literacy State Development Grants, grantees of the Educator Workforce Investment Grant, or the EWIG, for EL Roadmap Policy Implementation, grantees of the EWIG Special Education Grants, the California Dyslexia Initiative, and the grantee of the Reading Instruction and Intervention Grants. And now I'm going to bounce it over to Julia, who is going to go over the program description.
Hi, good afternoon. I'm Julia Agostinelli, the administrator of the Professional Learning Innovations Office. Thank you so much for joining us today. I get to transition us over to talking about program requirements, goals, and responsibilities. This project can be summarized in 6 major components: leadership, development, collaboration and communication, alignment, implementation and expansion, and evaluation. And let's get started with leadership. The grantee will work closely with the CDE, the chosen evaluator, and any project partners over the course of this grant. The grantee will participate on an advisory committee composed of COE and CDE staff and led by the CDE in monthly virtual meetings to review current and upcoming grant activities. All grant activities will be subject to prior approval by the CDE. So development is next. The grantee will create a solid foundation for this project, ensuring that it is well-rounded and informed by practitioners in the field by using grant funds to inform the training and PL for literacy coaches with an in-person convening of literacy coaches from across the state. The grantee will solicit participation from these literacy coaches, gather and implement feedback from the convening participants, and ensure that any materials or resources developed as a result are aligned with California guidance, policy, and frameworks. Remember that all professional learning must be aligned to evidence-based practices and strategies. You'll be asked to upload a works cited page as part of the application in order to demonstrate this alignment. Okay. The grantee will provide opportunities for educators interested in receiving the required added authorization and/or credential for becoming a reading specialist, as well as use the class curriculum for becoming a reading specialist to inform the PL for literacy coaches. A grantee who proposes partnership with an IHE or a consortium of IHEs should work with them to perform this task. Next is collaboration and communication. The grantee will meet monthly with the advisory committee to review work and collaborate on next steps. Collaborate and facilitate monthly meetings among the LEAs across the state that received literacy coaches and reading specialists or LCRS funds, as well as any partner agencies such as IHEs, CSMPs, other COEs, or literacy initiatives, etc. Use these partnerships to host several events, including but not limited to statewide panel discussions and literacy summits. A critical aspect of the grantee's work will be to incentivize LEAs that receive LCRS funds to participate in the activities led by the grantee. This includes hosting communities of practice on a quarterly basis and in response to LEA needs, such as communities of practice, focusing on the needs of rural LEAs, as well as local PL events in the northern, central, and southern regions of the state. Providing opportunities for the LEAs to share their work with each other and gather feedback from the LEAs to inform offered PL and resources. The grantee will also provide regular communications on grant work to update all educational partners on their activities. This will include media releases, newsletters, conference presentations, presentations to the SSPI's Literacy and Biliteracy Task Force, regular work with a selected evaluator to review data collected and discuss best practices for dissemination. This grant is a major focus of the SSPI literacy campaign, so it will be important to communicate your progress and successes to all relevant educational partners. As we discussed, alignment is a critical piece of this project. The grantee will support each element of the LCRS allocation for LEAs with evidence-based strategies that align with state guidance, policy, and frameworks. PL should also align with the Commission's literacy TPEs and standards for literacy instruction in the state's teacher education programs to inform PL for both LCRS. A link to the approved literacy standards and TPEs can be found in the RFA. All offered PL must be aligned to evidence-based practices and strategies. Again, you'll be asked to upload a works cited page as part of the application in order to demonstrate this alignment. The Commission has information on the added authorization and specialist credential that a reading specialist can earn. Offered PL should be aligned to this added authorization and specialist credential. And as mentioned, if you choose to work with an IHE, we encourage you to use that partnership to help more educators obtain these added authorizations and specialist credentials. Links to the added authorization and specialist credential can be found in the RFA. For more information on the Commission's added authorization and specialist credential, you can see Reading and Literacy Added Authorization, CL-812, and Reading and Literacy Leadership Specialist Credential, CL-537. Next is implementation and expansion. The grantee will develop and disseminate PL and support resources and training materials across the state to all sites that have received the allocation, differentiated PL, and support to meet the needs of the local context. Incentivize all LEAs that receive LCRS funds to participate in the PL and adopt the resources developed through this grant program. Expand upon structures to ensure resources created through the grant are available free of charge after the grant's completion. Support teachers with PL on providing best first instruction, along with collaboratively collecting and analyzing student data, making instructional adjustments, identifying students needing interventions, and providing those interventions promptly, and monitoring ongoing student progress. Ensure PL opportunities are provided to urban, suburban, and rural settings throughout the state, and are differentiated to meet the needs of local communities and diverse student populations. And finally, evaluation. The grantee will be required in consultation with and subject to the approval of the SBE and the SSPI to contract with an independent evaluator. Grantee must commit to engaging in a request for proposals process after receiving the grant award to select an independent evaluator. The evaluation will include but is not limited to the following: how funds were used to employ literacy coaches and reading and literacy specialists, how funds were used to develop and implement school literacy programs, including assessment and ongoing monitoring of student performance, provisions of needed interventions, and coaching of classroom teachers, how expenditures impacted pupils' literacy achievement, including for pupil groups, how the LEA plans to continue to fund literacy coaches and reading and literacy specialists past the award period, how the offerings developed and provided by the grantee impacted the preparation and PL of literacy coaches and reading and literacy specialists, including but not limited to the literacy knowledge and leadership skills. To support the evaluation, the grantee will collect and monitor data to ensure PL project goals are being met, including meeting the overarching SSPI goal of students reading by 3rd grade. Directly impact classroom instruction that results in improved student outcomes, disaggregated by student group, and will impact the knowledge and skills of participating coaches, specialists, and classroom teachers. Collect data on all community literacy events, and review grantee and LEA activities and work with the CDE and the evaluator to develop interim and final reports. Ultimately, we have the following goals for this project: support PL project goals, as well as achieving the goal of California students reading by 3rd grade by 2026, by working with the CDE to build the capacity of LEAs receiving LCRS funds. The grantee will also align all PL offerings to the TPEs, the ELA/ELD framework, the SLP, the California CCSS for ELA literacy, the California ELD standards, and the QPLS. Additionally, PL opportunities provided by the grantee must align with the QPLS and support educators to do all of the following: develop and implement school literacy programs, including school literacy plans with metrics to measure progress toward goals and actions. Develop the knowledge and skills necessary, including literacy knowledge and leadership skills, to become literacy coaches. Attain required specialist credential and or added authorization to become a reading specialist. Attain, if qualified, their bilingual authorization and participate in PL aligned to the Commission's literacy standards and TPEs. Develop knowledge and skills in literacy instruction, including implementation of the ELA/ELD framework, the development and implementation of culturally sustaining curriculum and instruction, and the use of assessment data to identify and support effective instruction in struggling students and diverse learners, including early learners, EL students, pupils with disabilities, and pupils with dyslexia. And our last slide here with goals: develop knowledge and skills for appropriate identification and use of screening instruments, assessment strategies, and evidence-based literacy instruction, including biliteracy instruction for diverse learners. Implement intensive intervention strategies for pupils struggling with literacy, including tutoring and small group strategies, and strategies for target pupil groups based on data. Develop and implement family literacy plans that identify literacy and biliteracy goals, benchmarks, activities, and roles for all family members, as well as promote the availability of the state seal of biliteracy. Again, all offered professional learning, or PL, must be aligned to evidence-based practices and strategies. And another reminder about that works cited page, you want to make sure to upload that in order to demonstrate this alignment. I'm going to hand it back over to Jen now to go over the grantee responsibilities.
Thank you so much. So we're just going to give a summary of the overall responsibilities for the grantee for this project. The grantee is going to be responsible for working with the CDE as part of the advisory committee in all aspects of this grant, incentivizing LEAs receiving LCRS funds to participate in PL opportunities and use grant-developed resources to build their capacity, informing literacy coach PL by gathering literacy coaches to develop resources and materials, providing opportunities for interested educators to obtain the required added authorization or specialist credential to become reading specialists and encourage those that qualify to attain their bilingual authorization, creating and facilitating communities of practice on a quarterly basis and in response to LEA needs, such as communities of practice focusing on the needs of rural LEAs, as well as local PL events in the northern, central, and southern regions of California to support LEAs across the state and provide opportunities for LEAs to collaborate and share with each other on topics related to the LCRS ET. Generating and disseminating PL opportunities for educators across the state, including webinars, resources, and statewide literacy conferences in the areas of evidence-based literacy instruction, culturally sustaining curriculum and instruction, identifying and using assessment approaches and instruments, and analyzing resulting data to support effective instruction and identify and support struggling students, the implementation of the ELA-ELD framework, developing and implementing school literacy plans, becoming literacy coaches, establishing an evidence-based family literacy initiative, and any other topic identified as necessary by the LEAs, all of which will support diverse learners, including early learners, EL students, pupils with disabilities, and pupils with dyslexia. Additionally, the grantee will ensure that all PL opportunities are aligned with the literacy initiatives that are outlined in Section 1C in the Commission's literacy standards and TPEs. They will follow a communication plan set by the CDE, including monthly meetings, communications, and conference presentations as needed. They will ensure that any new instructional and PL materials developed as a result of this grant are available as open educational resources during and beyond the life of the grants, as well as work with the selected evaluator, collect data, analyze it annually, and adjust course as necessary, ensuring that the data collected is disaggregated by student subgroup and reflects progress toward the goals of the project and of students reading by third grade. Other data will include metrics measuring the outcome of PL opportunities, including quantitative and qualitative measures. Monitoring the performance of any services provided through funds awarded under this grant by partners, consultants, or other organizations, and receiving and administering the grant funds and submitting the required reports to account for the use of grant funds. Now let's shift gears a little bit and talk about allowable and non-allowable activities and costs. So generally, all expenditures must contribute to the goals and objectives outlined in the RFA. Funds may not be used for rental of a venue to provide PD unless the expense is determined by the CDE to be a necessary and reasonable expense. Applicant budgets for the use of grant funds will be reviewed by the CDE grant reviewers, and any items that are deemed non-allowable, excessive, or inappropriate will be rejected and will impact an applicant's final score. Funds provided under this grant may not be used for the following purposes: supplanting of existing funds and efforts, acquisition of equipment for administrative or personal use, acquisition of furniture, for example, bookcases, chairs, desks, file cabinets, tables, unless an integral part of an equipment workstation or to provide reasonable accommodations to students with disabilities, food services, refreshments, banquets, and meals, as well as the purchase of space, payment for memberships and professional organizations, purchase of promotional favors such as bumper stickers, pencils, pens, or t-shirts, subscriptions to journals or magazines, travel outside the United States, or travel to states included in AB 1887's travel prohibition list. And that travel prohibition list can be found on the CDE website as well as in the RFA. So an integral part of the reporting requirements is ongoing communication with the CDE. The grantee must participate in regular meetings with the CDE and participate in all required evaluation activities as requested by the CDE. Both quarterly and annual reports will be required. So as stated, the grantee must provide an annual report to the CDE, and that will include student outcome data demonstrating impact on student achievement and adjustments to the plan in response to the data, the number of activities accomplished, the impact of these activities on educator capacity, and the number of teachers, paraprofessionals, school leaders, districts, counties, and regions impacted by these activities. Note that if the grantee does not provide the required reports to the CDE, program activities are not completed as agreed upon, there is a lack of participation in meetings, or there is a negative trend in the dissemination of technical assistance, the CDE may halt funding at any time. The applicant selected for funding will receive a grant award notification or an AO400, the official CDE document that awards funds to local projects. The grantee and fiscal agent must be the same entity. The superintendent of the COE acting as the fiscal agent must sign and return the AO400 to the CDE before funds are dispersed. And I'm going to give it back over to Julia, who's going to take us through the application process.
All right, thanks, Jen. So next, we will review the application process. Please note the important upcoming deadlines for the LCRS ET application. Please note the timeline is subject to change, and you can refer to the CDE LCRS ET webpage for the most up-to-date timeline. The application is due to the CDE on May 26, 2023 before 4 p.m. The intent to award will be posted during the week of July 10th, 2023. The last day for appeals to be received by the CDE will be during the week of July 17th, 2023. And appeals will be open for approximately 1 week. Final awards will be posted following approval by the SBE. We anticipate this to be the week of July 31st, with the project start date being in August of 2023. The application will consist of 4 general types of information: applicant information, application narrative, budget information, and attachments, which will include works cited, project timeline, the budget, and letters of commitment. The lead applicant will receive email confirmation of the information submitted. If changes need to be made, the lead applicant must resubmit the entire application prior to the submission deadline. And the last submitted application will be the one considered for review. The CDE is not able to modify the application information after it's submitted. Incomplete or late applications will not be considered. Only fully completed applications will be considered eligible for consideration in advance to the Readers' Conference. A panel of readers selected for their expertise will read, review, and score each eligible application using the scoring rubric. Readers will be instructed to read each proposal in its entirety to get an overall impression of the project and whether it makes sense overall. Points will be awarded based on completeness and responsiveness of the application to each of the required application components. Interviews with potential grantees may be conducted. All costs associated with the interviews will be the applicant's responsibility. Next, I will review the application itself. The application is electronic and available on the CDE LCRS ET RFA webpage at http://www.cde.gov/F-G/FO/R12/LCRS23 RFA.ASP. Carefully read the application instructions located in Appendix A of the RFA. The scoring rubric is valued at a maximum of 212 points. The grant award may not necessarily be made to the application that has the highest score. These scores are advisory to the panelists who will make the final decisions to ensure that the applications meet the goals and requirements of the program. The scoring rubric is valued at a maximum of 212 points. Please review the scoring rubric and the application instructions carefully to ensure you are aware of point values and character counts as they vary by question. The table displays the maximum point values for each section. Some items are weighted more than others. The project plan theory of action is worth 8 points. Project plan evidence-based practices and qualifications is worth 112 points. Project plan PL dissemination is worth 48 points. Alignment is worth 16 points. Expanding capacity is worth 8. Priority points for the IHE is worth 12 points. And the budget is worth 8 points. Again, for a total of 212 total possible points. Each rubric response will be scored in the following categories in descending point value: outstanding, strong, partial, and minimal. Some responses are worth more than others, so please pay careful attention again to the point values across the top of each rubric section. In each part of the application narrative, applicants should address the prompts and refer to the evaluation rubric. Adhere to the character limit for each question, because the survey will not collect data beyond that character limit. Successful applicants must be able to demonstrate that their proposed project is conceptually clear, is evidence-based, is technically feasible, is sustainable, is scalable, and leads or contributes to a culture of continuous improvement after the grant period. To complete the narrative, be sure to fully address the prompts, refer to the scoring rubric to understand how responses will be evaluated by the reading panel, and follow all application instructions in Appendix A, the application narrative. You'll notice the following terms throughout the scoring rubric. Here's a description of what is meant. These definitions of terms are also listed in the RFA. Thorough, meaning includes every part or detail. Convincing would be brings to belief. Clear would be adequate, of a quality that is good or acceptable, easily understood, includes sufficient detail. Then there is plausible, meaning feasible, reasonable, realistic, worthy of belief. Partial would be incomplete details or elements essential to program component, leaves the reader with questions. And lastly, minimal, with the least amount of detail. Jen will now go over each of these questions within the RFA.
Thank you. So we are going to start with Part 1A, Project Plan, Theory of Action. This section has one item and is worth a total of 8 points. So you will articulate a theory of action which will achieve the goals of the grants to number 1, support the SSPI's goal of students reading by 3rd grade by 2026. Number 2, develop and provide training for educators, specifically for those at sites that have received funds as part of the $225 million allocation authorized by AB 181, Section 137, to become literacy coaches and reading and literacy specialists. And 3, to provide PL on the allowable activities outlined in AB 181. Include an approximate number of students that this project plan has the capacity to impact. That is worth 8 points. Note that a theory of action is a well-specified conceptual framework that identifies key components of the proposed process, product, strategy, or practice, and describes the relationships among the key components and outcomes theoretically and operationally. Next, we have Part 1B, Project Plan, Evidence-Based Practices and Qualifications. This has 14 items and is worth a total of 112 points. So Part 1B is organized in sets of 2 related prompts. The first prompt of each set provides the opportunity to describe how the proposed PL will increase educator capacity in a particular area and to identify the corresponding evidence base. The second prompt provides an opportunity to specify the relevant expertise, experience, and qualifications related to that same area. So our first question, describe how the proposed PL will develop knowledge and understanding of evidence-based literacy assessment and instruction as described in the Commission's literacy standards and TPEs, including implementation of the ELA ELD framework and dual language acquisition and ELD programs for diverse learners, including all of the following: early learners, EL and multilingual students, pupils with disabilities, and pupils with dyslexia. Identify the evidence base for these practices and any proposed materials, and that is worth 8 points. Describe the applicant's previous experience and/or expertise in developing and delivering PL for knowledge and understanding of evidence-based literacy assessment and instruction as described in the Commission's literacy standards and TPEs, including implementation of the ELA ELD framework and dual language acquisition and ELD programs as described above. Specify the relevant qualifications of any proposed consortium members, and that is worth 8 points. Next, describe how the proposed PL will develop knowledge and understanding of reading and acquisition of language for diverse learners, including all of the following: early learners, EL and multilingual students, pupils with disabilities, and pupils with dyslexia. Identify the evidence base for these practices and any proposed materials. That is worth 8 points. Describe the applicant's previous experience and/or expertise in developing and delivering PL for knowledge and understanding of reading and acquisition of language for diverse learners, including all of the following: early learners, EL and multilingual students, pupils with disabilities, and pupils with dyslexia. Specify the relevant qualifications of any proposed consortium members. That is worth 8 points. Next, describe how the proposed PL will develop knowledge and understanding of assessment data collection and analysis, data-driven decision-making, using data to identify and support struggling students, and how to facilitate conversations about data with teachers. Identify the evidence base for these practices and any proposed materials. That is worth 8 points. Describe the applicant's previous experience and/or expertise in developing and delivering a PL for knowledge and understanding of assessment, data collection and analysis, data-driven decision-making, using data to identify and support struggling students, and how to facilitate conversations about data with teachers. Specify the relevant qualifications of any proposed consortium members. That is worth 8 points. Next, describe how the proposed PL will develop knowledge and understanding of evidence-based intensive literacy assessment, identification, and provision of interventions, which may include high dosage or group tutoring for pupils struggling with literacy. Identify the evidence base for these practices and any proposed materials. That is worth 8 points. Describe the applicant's previous experience and/or expertise in developing and delivering PL for knowledge and understanding of evidence-based intensive literacy assessments, identification, and provision of interventions, which may include high dosage or group tutoring for pupils struggling with literacy. Specify the relevant qualifications of any proposed consortium members. That is worth 8 points. Describe how the proposed PL will increase educator and school leader knowledge of developing and implementing a school literacy plan. Identify the evidence base for these practices and any proposed materials. That is worth 8 points. Describe the applicant's previous experience and/or expertise in developing and delivering PL to increase educator and school leader knowledge of developing and implementing a school literacy plan. Specify the relevant qualifications of any proposed consortium members. That is worth 8 points. Next, describe how the proposed PL will increase educator and school leader knowledge of developing and implementing culturally sustaining curriculum, assessment, and instruction. Identify the evidence base for these practices and any proposed materials. That is worth 8 points. Describe the applicant's previous experience and/or expertise in developing and delivering PL to increase educator and school leader knowledge of developing and implementing culturally sustaining curriculum, assessment, and instruction. Specify the relevant qualifications of any proposed consortium members, and that is worth 8 points. Next, describe how the proposed PL will increase educator and school leader knowledge of developing and implementing a family-based literacy and biliteracy initiative, including but not limited to family literacy plans, home visiting programs, extended day, summer, or weekends opportunities, information on earning a state seal of biliteracy, and community partnerships such as school libraries, including but not limited to digital tools. Identify the evidence base for these practices and any proposed materials, and that is worth 8 points. And finally, describe the applicant's previous experience and/or expertise in developing and delivering PL to increase educator and school leader knowledge of developing and implementing a family-based literacy and biliteracy initiative, including but not limited to family literacy plans, home visiting programs, extended day summer or weekend opportunities, information on earning a state seal of biliteracy, and community partnerships, such as public libraries, including but not limited to digital tools. Specify the relevant qualifications of any proposed consortium members. That is worth 8 points. Note that applicants will also be asked to provide a works cited that details the evidence base for all PL and strategies mentioned in the project plan. Please note that this is not a scored aspect of the application. However, it is still a required part of a complete application. So please ensure that you upload this. Our next section is Part 1C, Project Plan, Professional Learning Dissemination. This has 6 items and is worth a total of 48 points. So our first question is provide an overview of how the applicant will use the funding to host a gathering of literacy coaches across the state to inform and develop resources for the proposed PL for literacy coaches, and that is worth 8 points. Provide an overview of how the applicant will provide opportunities for interested educators to obtain a reading specialist credential and/or added authorization, and that is worth 8 points. Provide an overview of how the applicant will use the funding to generate and disseminate PL opportunities, including communities of practice, webinars, and conferences for educators, including those intending to be literacy coaches, employed by the identified eligible sites as part of the allocation in AB 181 identified within the bill, and that is worth 8 points. Describe how the applicant will ensure that the diverse needs of the identified eligible sites are met across the northern, central, and southern regions, including urban, suburban, and rural settings, as well as the needs of local communities and diverse student populations, including opportunities for LEAs with eligible sites to collaborate with each other. That is worth 8 points. Next, describe the plan for securing participation from identified eligible sites that receive LCRS funds in the proposed PL opportunities for all target participants, including those becoming literacy coaches or reading specialists, teachers, administrators, and paraprofessionals, as well as how any anticipated challenges to recruitment will be overcome, and that will be 8 points. And finally, provide a project timeline for implementation of proposed activities that includes approximate dates for implementation of all major proposed activities, the person or organization responsible for each activity, the expected goal of the activity, and how the effectiveness of the activity will be measured. And that is worth 8 points. Next, we have part 2, alignments. This has 2 items and is worth a total of 16 points. So our first question, describe how the proposed activities align with the California CCSS for ELA and literacy, the California ELD standards, and all 5 themes of the ELA-ELD framework, including language development, meaning making, effective expression, content knowledge, and foundational skills, and the California Dyslexia Guidelines. And that is worth 8 points. And describe how the proposed activities align with the preparation program standards set by the Commission for Literacy and the TPEs, as well as how the activities will expand upon the Commission's work, and that is 8 points. Part 3 is next, expanding capacity. It has 2 items and is worth a total of 8 points. The first question is describe how the applicant will work with an independent evaluator to select the quantitative and qualitative measures that will be used to examine the measures defined in section 2.b or the program requirements, as well as other measures such as determining impact on achievement of the goal of students reading by 3rd grade, increased capacity of educators and school leaders, and the plan for analyzing and responding to these measures. And that is worth 4 points. And also explain how the applicants will ensure the benefits of the project are sustained beyond the life of the grant so that others may benefit. And that is also 4 points. Part 4 is our priority points for institutions of higher education. This has 3 items and is worth a total of 12 points. So as a reminder, the CDE will prioritize and award points to applicants that propose partnerships with an IHE or a consortium of IHEs with demonstrated success in providing statewide PD for expert literacy practice, especially those that can support educators in obtaining a reading and literacy added authorization and/or specialist credential as defined by the Commission. So our first question, if applicable, describe how the lead applicant will work together to implement proposed activities in a consortium with 1 or more IHEs. Describe the proposed role, relevant expertise and experience, and applicable qualifications of the IHEs, including how their expertise, experience, and qualifications will meet the literacy needs of a wide range of learners, and that is worth 4 points. If applicable, describe how the partner IHEs will support educators in obtaining a reading and literacy added authorization and/or credential, and that is worth 4 points. And if applicable, provide letters of commitment addressed to the lead applicant and signed by the dean of the specific department within an IHE. If applicable, also provide letters of commitment addressed to the lead applicant and signed by the COE superintendent of each COE participating in the consortium. And that is worth 4 points. Next, we're moving on to the budgets. The budget section has 2 items and is worth a total of 8 points. So a projected 4-year budget is required in the application. Project expenses will be identified using grant funds in the 2023-24 through the 2026-27 fiscal years. The applicant must provide a thorough and detailed justification for each identified costs associated with implementing the proposed initiatives and goals, including why the costs are reasonable and necessary to support the proposal's initiatives and goals. Ensure that the budget is not overly heavy in administrative costs and takes into consideration the cost of educators' time to attend PL, and account for the required funds for a contract with an evaluator. Both budget items will be attached to the application. Form B is the proposed project budget summary, and Form C is the LCRS ET project budget narrative. Forms B and C are on separate tabs of one Excel spreadsheet, and that is included on the RFA webpage. The rubric items for the budget include completing the LCRS ET proposed project budget summary, or Form B, including allowable costs for the project's performance period from August 2023 through March 31st, 2027, that is worth 4 points. And provide a detailed explanation on the LCRS ET project budget narrative, or Form C, for each line item for each year of a 4-year performance period. The narrative should include a description of how the proposed costs to implement the proposed project are necessary and reasonable in terms of project activities, benefits to participants, and project outcomes, and that is worth 4 points. The application budget itself covers the entire project period, and that is August 2023 through March 31st, 2027. You will submit it using the provided Excel file templates through the online application, and that template is available on the LCRS ET RFA webpage. And it includes 8 tabs: Instructions, LEA Information, Form B, Proposed Budget Summary, Form C, Budget Narrative for years 1, 2, 3, and 4, that is 4 separate tabs, and Form Approval. The proposed budget narrative must include a detailed budget description for each line item within the grant period. You will provide sufficient detail in a breakdown calculation that justifies each line item, group line items by the object code services, and provide lines for object code totals. The proposed budget summary must provide totals for each object code and must align with the proposed budget narrative. And now I'm going to give it back to Julia to go over some final points.
All right, saving responses. You must select the Save Responses button on the online application if you do not intend to complete the application in one session. Once you select the Save Responses button, a page will appear that asks for your email address. You will receive an email with a unique URL or web address for entrance back into the application. Although you should receive the confirmation email, it is recommended that you copy the URL on the application page and save it. This address will allow you to return to your application. At the end of the online application, applicants will be asked to upload all files requested in a single zip file. Files requested include works cited, Forms B and C, proposed budget summary and proposed budget narrative, project timeline, and letters of commitment as applicable. Remember, all required files are necessary for a complete application. Applicants must save all files into a single zip file. Only one file can be uploaded per applicant. No additional information in the zip file will be reviewed. And please note the zip file size limit is 20 megabytes. The superintendent of the COE must agree to Form A, Project Statement of Assurances. Applicants do not need to sign and return the general assurances and certifications with the application. Instead, applicants must download the assurances and certifications and keep them on file and available for compliance reviews, complaint investigations, or audits. Applicants should be familiar with the following resources available in the RFA documents: ELA/ELD framework, the Commission's literacy standards and TPEs, California Comprehensive SLP, QPLS, the California CCSS for ELA/literacy, California ELD standards, and California dyslexia guidelines. EL roadmap, improving education for multilingual and EL students. The California Practitioner's Guide for Educating ELs with Disabilities. CDE's MTSS webpage. The California Family Engagement Framework. Asset-based pedagogies. And culturally sustaining pedagogies. And we're going to transition now to our Q&A portion. So we're just going to take a moment to review that chat. And as questions come up, please go ahead and put them into the chat.
So Jen, we had a question earlier on character counts for each question. And that is listed in Appendix A of the RFA. It's also included in the application itself within each question. We had a question about paying for rental space in light of the requirement to hold an in-person gathering. And we did note that rental space can be approved by CDE if it is deemed necessary for grant activities. And then we had this most recent question: is the scope of this grant TK through 3rd? Can funds be used to build capacity in grades 4 and up?
Yeah, so the interesting thing about the LCRS allocation for LEAs is that while the enrollments for TK through 3 triggered the site as eligible or not eligible, it's actually the entire site that can receive the benefit of the funds. So if a site is like TK through grade 5, for example, then the entire site can be supported by LCRS funds. Extending that into the LCRS ET grant program, the primary purpose of the grantee will be to support those sites that receive the LCRS funding. And so that includes the entire sites. Even though the, again, the enrollments that triggered the eligibility was TK through 3, it is the entire site that is eligible and the entire site that you would be supporting with the LCRS ET grant program. Yes, Jorge, I agree. It is a relief and it is equitable, right? We want to ensure that the entire site is able to benefit from those funds. Oh, for the trailer bill funding for the extra 250 million, it's still moving through the legislative process, so we'll have to wait and see.
Yes, we're not big into gambling, so.
Mary, there will be one lead applicant. Mary's question was, is the plan to award as many applicants as can be funded or only one to serve all of the states? There will be one lead applicant, but as we noted, there will be priority points awarded to those applicants that partner with Institute of Higher Education, and we also encourage consortia with other COEs, but again, one applicant.
So I see there's Jorge, you have a question about kind of monitoring the funds of those sites that receive the LCRS funds. And yes, we will be collecting a lot of data around use of those funds. So our plan is to provide an annual report, and you can actually find that template on our webpage now. The types of questions we will be soliciting from the LCRS grant recipients. And we will be finalizing that information soon for that first annual report. Is your question around knowing how many coaches each LCRS site has? Okay. Yes, so that's something we will be asking them in that annual report. I believe right now that we're on schedule to post or collect that report in September. Am I right, Jen? Okay, so that's kind of our first collection data point, if that's helpful in your application. Move on to our contact slide, I think, and if folks still have questions, we'll be around. So
Absolutely. I assume that as you guys are filling out your application and preparing for that other questions will arise. So as those questions arise, please do contact me for all program related questions. Jennifer Howder again, and we're using the PLIO mailbox for that. So that's PLIO@cde.ca.gov. And then if you have any questions about accessing the RFA, downloading the attached files, you can direct those questions to Catherine, and her email is kslaven@cde.ca.gov. And with that, I think that concludes our webinar for today. I want to thank you guys so much for logging on and going through all of that information with us. Thank you for all of your questions, and I look forward to hearing from all of you any other questions that occur as you are going through this process. Thank you all so much.